In this test, you'll hear a number of different recordings, and you'll have to answer questions on what you hear. There will be time for you to read the instructions and questions, and you will have a chance to check your answers. The recording will be played once only. The test is in 4 sections. Now turn to section 1 on page 100 of your book. You will hear a hotel manager telling an employee called Steffi about her work trip to Australia. First, you have time to look at questions 1 and 2. You will see that there is also an example which has been done for you. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 and 2.
Hello, Steffi.
Hello.
Thanks for coming. I want to brief you about your trip to Australia.
Great. I'm really excited about it.
So, let's see. You'll work at one of the company's hotels in Australia for 1 month, and you're leaving in a week's time. I'm going to be away myself from tomorrow, so I wanted to make sure you were fully briefed.
Thank you.
Now, although it's part of the Ambassador Group, the hotel you're going to work at is actually called the Bristol. The company's other hotel in Sydney is called the Carlton, by the way. Another member of staff went there last year and had a great time.
I see.
Now, I know you usually work on reception here, but in a new place that's not a good idea. So, for the first few days, you will help out in the manager's office, doing general duties. Then, later on, you'll work in different areas, including the dining room and the conference centre.
Sounds great.
Before you listen to the rest of the conversation, you have some time to read questions 3 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 3 to 10.
Can I ask about the working hours?
Sure. Now, you do 35 hours a week here, but on this kind of work experience placement, you only have to do 30.
Really?
Yes, but it means working 5 hours a day, 6 days a week. I hope that's okay for you.
Oh, yes, no problem.
And during your stay, you'll do morning, afternoon and evening shifts. That means starting at either 7 in the morning, at midday or at 5 in the evening. For the first week, you'll be on the afternoon shift.
Oh, that's good. So I get 1 day off?
That's right. Obviously, in Australia, weekends are busy, so you'll work on Saturdays and Sundays. But I've agreed that you'll be free on Fridays. I hope that's all right?
Absolutely. Thank you. And will I stay in the hotel itself?
Yes. Free accommodation is included. But that's in a shared room. If you want a single room, then you have to pay a little extra, but only a few dollars.
Oh, yes, I'm sure I'd prefer that.
OK, I'll let them know. Breakfast is provided free of charge in the hotel, but if you want to eat lunch or dinner there, you have to pay.
I see. Are there any staff discounts?
Not in the restaurant, but if you buy anything in the hotel shop, you get 10% off.
Right.
There may be other perks I'm not aware of, but you'll have what's called a mentor at the hotel who can tell you more.
Sorry, what's that?
A mentor. It's a member of staff who's available to give advice and help if you need it. I've got her name here somewhere. Yes, Mrs. Drinkston. That's DRINKSTONE. I don't seem to have her first name, but I'll get it for you.
Thanks. It all sounds fantastic.
Oh, one last thing. We want to know how the trip goes. What's different about the two hotels from the employee's point of view, positive or negative. So you'll be asked to write a report each week. There's a template available. I'll email it to you.
Oh, great. Thanks.
So I think that's all. I hope you have a wonderful time.
Thank you.
Now turn to Section 2 on page 101 of your book. You will hear some information about English language courses. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Thanks for coming to this short presentation about the courses available at the Central Language School in Hanford. First of all, let me tell you where the language school is. Most people arrive in the city by train, and the station's on the edge of the city centre area. It's about half an hour on foot from there to the main university campus, and the Central Language School can be found just next door. There are frequent buses if you don't fancy the walk. Because Hanford's a university city, there's plenty of student accommodation. Most university students rent houses which they share with friends. The majority of language school students, however, stay in host family accommodation, where meals are provided and there's a chance to practice language skills. There are also self-catering rooms available in a student residence, but this works out more expensive, so isn't so popular. In terms of leisure activities, the school doesn't have tennis courts or anything like that. There's a public park opposite, though, where students can use the football pitch without having to pay. In addition, the school has an arrangement with a local gym so that students can use its facilities at a discounted price. Some students prefer to spend their free time in the school library. It has a collection of reference books that can be used on site but not taken away. There's also a selection of English language films on DVD, which students can watch on site or borrow overnight. There's internet access too. Students get a password and an hour's free use each day, though there's a booking system for busy periods. The library's also got a selection of magazines, which is updated weekly, but daily newspapers are not provided.
Before you hear the rest of the presentation, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20.
OK, so what about the courses themselves? Basically, there are 3 courses available. You can study either for 15 hours per week, for 18 hours per week, or for 21 hours per week. Let me tell you about the 3 different courses. Students on the 15-hour course study General English and come to school in the morning only, leaving the afternoons free for self-study or free time activities. There are 12 students in the class, and there are classes at 4 different levels. Students do an entry test on arrival to see which level is best for them. The price of this course is £430 per week. The 18-hour course combines General English with exam preparation. This has the same program as the 15-hour course, with the addition of special exam preparation sessions 4 afternoons a week. That is, each weekday, with the exception of Friday. This course is suitable for those doing an exam at some time in the future. There are 10 students in the class, and this course costs £465 per week. Finally, we have intensive exam preparation courses. These are more expensive at £495. There are only 8 students in the class, all preparing to do the exam in the near future. As well as 21 class hours, each student has a personal tutorial once a week. So that's our school. Before I go on, does anyone have any questions?
Now turn to section 3, on page 102 of your book. You will hear 2 students called Adam and Becky talking about a traffic survey they have to do as part of their college course. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26.
Hi, Becky.
Hi, Adam.
So, we're going to be working together on the traffic survey. That'll be fun.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I guess we should start making some plans. Are you free now?
Sure. Where shall we begin? The idea is to do some research into local road traffic, isn't it?
That's right. On the worksheet, it says we've got to choose one important place on the local road system, count the number of cars using it in a given period, and also try and find out why it's busier at certain times than at others.
Sounds interesting. How long have we got?
Well, we should choose 2 days in the week, like a weekday and a weekend day, and do the survey over a number of weeks, to be sure that we get data that represents an average, which is based on a sample of days and not just one day that might be unusual for some reason.
Sure. So that's 2 days a week for what? 3 weeks?
Yeah, I reckon that should be enough. I'm free on Mondays, if that's all right with you. And then perhaps we should do Saturdays as the contrast.
Yes, that's good for me too. But do we just set up at the roadside? Don't we have to get permission or anything?
Well, The local police will tell us where is the best place to set up from a safety point of view, and they'll keep an eye on us to make sure there are no problems. But we have to tell them which road we want to do.
Great. So, where should we ask for?
Well, I thought outside the shopping centre would be a good place. We could count how many cars using the road were going into the centre and how many drove past it.
Ah, good idea.
But we've got to do more than just count the cars, haven't we?
Yes. We've also got to interview some drivers. So whilst one of us counts the cars, the other one can be in the car park doing the interviews.
OK. Let's take it in turns to do both these jobs, because just counting the cars could get boring.
I agree. And there are other jobs we could share out too. Somebody's got to prepare the questionnaire we use for the interviews. You're good at writing that sort of thing, Becky. Would you mind doing that?
I'd be happy to. Though we'd need to discuss it a bit first. Then maybe you could save the data onto the laptop at the end of each day.
OK, yes. What does that involve?
Well, we're going to have an electronic counter for the cars. You press a button each time one passes and it records it. Then you put the figures into the database on the laptop at the end of the day.
OK, I think I could manage that.
Thanks, Adam.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30.
So, what do you think we should ask in the questionnaire?
Well, the questionnaire's meant to find out some reasons that explain the data. You know, it's no good saying how many cars use the route at a given time without having some idea of why they do that.
OK. So the main focus needs to be on why they chose to go by car rather than catch the bus or go by bike.
Oh, I'm not sure that's it really.
Oh.
Isn't it more why the drivers chose that route and not another one?
Well, we're only asking the ones who drive into the car park, so I guess we already know that.
You're right. OK then. I reckon we need to ask them why they chose to travel at that time.
Yes, OK. That can be the main focus of the questionnaire. Various questions about that. But maybe we should ask a supplementary question to get an idea of the type of people they are.
What do you mean?
Well, like if we ask them what they think about climate change, then we'd see if they were concerned about green issues or not.
That's a good idea. That would tell us more about them than asking them what they think of the car park itself or why they use their cars instead of the bus.
Great! Let's do that then.
Then once we've finished the survey, we've got to write a report which we then present to the class.
I think that writing the actual report is a job that's best done by one person. It would be messy trying to join different bits together.
I agree. And I'm happy to do that if you like.
Oh.
I mean, I'm sure you'd do it very well, but I'm happier writing things than I am presenting them. If you want to do a draft, though, for me to work from, that would be okay. Or I could just show you mine before I write up the final version.
Well, there's no point in having two drafts. I'll look at yours and make comments.
OK. And you'll do the presentation?
Sure. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, that's the easy part. You're a very good presenter, I know, but that's because you've had a lot more experience than me. It will do me good to do it, actually. give me more confidence about speaking in public.
Great. That's agreed then.
Now turn to section 4 on page 103 of your book. You will hear part of a lecture about a type of bird called a red kite, which is found in Western Europe. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good evening. Tonight's lecture is about a bird of prey called the red kite. This bird used to be common in the British Isles, but died out in England and Scotland during the 19th century. In recent years, however, the red kite has been reintroduced to these countries, and it's the story of that programme that I want to tell you about tonight. Firstly, why did the red kite disappear from most of Britain? Well, there are a number of reasons. Many centuries ago, the red kite was a valued bird that helped keep the streets clean by eating waste food. As cities became cleaner, there was less for the birds to eat, so their numbers began to fall. Some people even killed them because they thought they were dirty. In the 19th century, as the kite became rarer, it became a target for people who collected birds' eggs as a hobby. The red kite became extinct in England in 1871 and in Scotland in 1879. However, the red kite was not without friends, and for many years people have been trying to help the birds. As long ago as 1903, British people interested in red kite conservation formed a committee. The aim of this committee was to protect the bird. By then, there were only a small number of birds left in Wales. Until about 1950, when protection measures began to take effect, the number of birds did not increase much. This is why a reintroduction programme was needed, and plans for this began in the year 1986. The idea was to bring birds living in other countries to England, in the hope that they would like it and settle there. Red kites were still found in various Western European countries like France and Germany, even some in Morocco, but in 1989 the first reintroduced birds came from Spain and Sweden. In 1989, these birds were released in sites in southern England, with a total of 93 birds being set free. On the whole, the programme was successful, and by 1992, the first pairs of birds had begun breeding in the wild. Indeed, the programme was so successful that in 1996, a similar one began in Scotland, which has also met with success. The reintroduction programme was organised following strict rules. These rules say that reintroduction should only be allowed if certain criteria apply. For example, the birds must have disappeared due to human activity rather than through natural causes. That's the first of the criteria. The second one says that there must still be a habitat which is suitable for the birds in the country. If it has disappeared, then reintroduction wouldn't work. Thirdly, the birds which are introduced from another country must be similar genetically to the birds that used to live in the area where they will be released. And finally, the removal of birds from another place mustn't endanger the survival of the species there. Happily, in the case of the red kite's reintroduction to Britain, all these criteria were met. Consequently, the red kite's future as a British breeding species is now much brighter. There are probably around 1,800 breeding pairs in Britain.
This is the end of the test.